Sanbonani, Kunjani. Hello, how are you? How are you doing? Good morning. So, for some reason, I'm just going to be open and vulnerable with you all. I'm feeling a bit nervous this morning, but it's okay. Maybe it's because I'm not so used to like early morning stuff, right? But we're all in it. We're here and it's lekker. Okay. Let me begin with a story. Yeah, mama, yeah, 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 yeah. Once upon a time, many, many moons ago. How many moons? Hi, boy, guys. Is the coffee not working too? How many moons? Many. Yo, guys. Yo. Many, many moons ago. Many, many moons ago. Wow. There, in the southern regions of Africa, there was a tiny village. And inside this tiny village lived a young boy. His name was Jabu. Now Jabu, no matter where he went, no matter what he did, he was funny because he would always say, "It is good." He would say, "It is good." And when he would walk around the village, and even when he broke his toe the one day, the villagers would look at poor Jabu and say, "Hey, Jabu, how's your toe doing?" And Jabu would say, "It is good." Chase Mao? Jabu, how can you say it's good? You have a broken toe. He skipped along, yeah, with a broken toe and a limp, and just kept on saying, "It is good." Lekker. Now, Jabu was best friends with the prince of the village. And they did everything together. Yo, they were best of bras. Or what do you call like bromance, you know? They were like that. And they would go down to the river and pick up the stones and skip it across the river like that. Now, Jabu was always good at finding that perfect stone, you know, that one of the lekker weight, that's lekker flat. And the prince was always good at skipping the most. And they grew up, and they would still go down to the river. But this time they would take the kori, and they would shoot the rocks off. Now, Jabu would always find the rechte one, like that lekker round stone, you know. And the prince was always good at aiming and hitting those rocks. Now they grew up and grew some more. And the prince became the king of the village. And he made Jabu his right-hand man, obviously. Now the king had duties, you know, it's not always celebrity, what, and the king. He had duties, responsibilities. He had to make sure that the village was taken care of, that the people had enough food to eat. So him and Jabu would always go out hunting together. Now the king was always good at aiming, ne? And Jabu was always good at tracking the prince of the animals. So one fine day, I said one Jana, you are good now. The king went to Jabu and said, "Hey Jabu, the villagers are asking me, they need to eat. Do you think it's time for us to eat?" Jabu looked at his prince, at his king. He went, "Hey, my king." It is good. You're catching on. So that night, when Big Mama Moon hung high in the sky, Jabu sat down And he sharpened those arrows, carefully dipped it in the poison, and packed the bag. So when that sun rose over the horizon the next morning, the king and Jacqui went off on their journey. They went over the hill and down again, across the river, down to the valley. They went over the hill and down again, across the river, down to the valley. Hey! When they got down to the valley, Jacqui went, shh, my king. Shh. There's tracks of a springbuck. Springbuck is like a deer for some of you that don't know, ne? They found in the, I'm not going to give you education. You can look it up. Springbuck. Anyway. My king. They carefully tracked that springbuck. And there, Jacqui spotted that springbuck between the bushes. He carefully took out the finest arrow he could find. He gave it to the king. The king took the arrow, placed it in the bow, pulled back, aimed. Oh, that arrow went slicing through the air. That arrow hit that springbuck on the height. That springbuck was going back and forth, springing back and forth. Jacqui ran towards that springbuck. All of a sudden, the king started screaming, ah, ah. Jacqui looked at the king and then, it is good. Look at the springbuck. It is good. And the king was furious. What? How can you tell me it is good, Jacqui? And he was holding his hand. And Jacqui let the springbuck go. He went to his king and he said, my king, what's the matter? And the king went, Jacqui, my thumb has been sliced off. How can you say it is good? Are you mal? Is there something wrong with you? I'm in pain. And all Jacqui looked at the king and said, my king, it is good. Do you want to hear that? When your thumb has been sliced off, that king was furious. He looked at Jacqui and said, how can you say it is good? You know, Jacqui, you made the arrow. You gave me the arrow. You did this to me. How could you do this to me? I'm your bestest bra. I never want to see you again. To jail with you. Yo, guys. Jacqui looked at his king. His heart broken. Turned around and said, it is good. And went straight to the jail. The king went back to the village. He went back to the village doing his king duties. And went to go see the shaman and the sangoma. And they healed the thumb now, half off. And many moons passed. But the king still had duties to fulfill. So the king decided to go out hunting himself. Because in that time, even though his half thumb somewhat healed, his heart was broken. He couldn't trust anyone, not even himself. But he had to fulfill his duties. So that night, he sharpened his own arrows. He carefully dipped it in the poison. He carefully packed his bag. And when that sun rose over the horizon the next morning, the king took his bag and off he went. He went over the hill and down again. Over the hill and down again. Across the river. But remember, the king wasn't so good at tracking. So he got lost. And he went a little bit further. A little bit further. Until eventually he found the tracks of a zebra. Yes, in South Africa we say zebra, not zebra. Yeah? You don't say Debra, you say Debra. Therefore it is good. Zebra, guys. Anyway, so there he goes. And he's going up the hill and he finds the tracks of a zebra. There he spots a zebra. that beautiful black and white fur. Oh. He puts it down, he takes out the arrow, he puts it in the bow, he pulls back, he aims. He lets go, that arrow went slicing into the air, that arrow hit that spring, that zebra, bah, on the side, that zebra went, oh, the king was so happy, he went running towards that zebra. All of a sudden the king was seized from the back. The king didn't realize that he had walked so far, he had walked into foreign territory of another tribe, a tribe of cannibals, a tribe who's been wanting to sacrifice this king for many moons. They seized the king, took him back to their village where there was a moors, a big fire pit, and a lekker long pole, and they tied that king up. That king was struggling, and the priest came out. And the priest said, well done, yeah, well done. Yeah, you work together. Well done. We finally have the king. Do you know what the gods will do for us? Hey, we will be blessed for thousands of years. He walked around. He came to the back of the king. And he stopped. He looked. What is wrong with this king? Oh, you're smiling at me now. What is wrong with us, king? What? Who said that? Put that to jail. Are you mal? How can you give me an unholy king? He has only got half a thumb. Do you know what the gods will do to us if they find out that we have given them an unholy king? They'll curse us. Set this thing free. Yo, when the king heard that, tears rolled down his cheek, as all he could think about was his best friend Jabo, and it is God. Yo, guys, they untied that king. As soon as he was free, that king went running as fast as he can. He went over the hill, down again, across the river, over the hill, down again, across the river. When he got to the village, he went straight to the jail. When he straight to the jail, he opened up that jail. Yo, he flung his arms around the Jabo and he cried, like summer snot and trana, you know those cries. Jabo and yo, my king, my king. So it is good. Jabo said, no. The king said to Jabo, no, Jabo, you don't understand. And he told Jabo the whole story. And he said, please forgive me, Jabo. How could I have thought of that of you? You were right the whole time. It is good, Jabo, it is good. You should have been with me. I should have never put you in jail. I should have believed you. I'm a cock friend. I'm sorry, Jabo. And Jabo looked at his king and said, my king, I'd already forgiven you. My king, it is good. And the king looked at Jabo and said, how can you say it is good? I still don't understand. And Jabo said, my king, if I had been with you, I would not be with you here right now. Therefore, my king, it is good. I will. Thank you. The title of the story is called It Is Good. Thank you. That story was shared to me a very long time ago. When I was growing up in South Africa. So if some of you don't know, I was introduced, my name is Jacqui Du Toit. I'm from Cape Town, South Africa, originally from Kimberley, but don't tell my mommy them. I say Cape Town, and I've been living in Ottawa in Canada for the past 12 years now. So I can almost say this is my other home now, no? But that story was shared to me when I was growing up in South Africa during apartheid era. And some of you know, some of you don't know, apartheid was racism to the extreme, and it was very hard. But we thought it was normal growing up as colored, mixed people. And then when Nelson Mandela became president and colored and black were allowed to go to white private schools, my parents sent me to a very prestigious all-girl private school in a town called Bloemfontein, which I didn't know at that time was a very, very racist town. Anyway, I was so excited. This new school, Lekker. And for those of you who don't know, Lekker, Lekka, I might say it often, is a slang word in South Africa meaning good. Okay? Anyway, and when I got to that school, I was so excited. However, and unfortunately, I was bullied for the first 6, 8, 10 months of my time there, based on the color of my skin and my accent. And I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't speak about it because this was a privilege for me to be at this school. And during that time, I suffered a lot. And I remember one time when my father came to pick me up one day and he noticed that I was really, really down and sad, and he was like, "What's going on with you?" And I said, "No, Daddy, it's fine, everything's fine." You see, that it was 2 hours away from my house, so that's why it was also like a big privilege. And we were driving back, and I remember seeing sunflowers on the side as we're driving, and my father shared that story with me. Yo, guys, did you think I wanted to hear that damn story? Heck no. I was so mad. I was like that king in that account. Can you tell me it is good? You know? I was like, I don't want to hear the story. And my father would keep telling me the story. Yo, it would drive me crazy. But eventually the story stuck with me, right? And I began to find in my situation of looking for where it is good. During the time there, I was in a lot of solitude. I was put away, like I'm not going to go into detail, but like segregated from the other girls. And I began to enjoy my sanctuary that I started creating for myself. I started finding the good in being with myself. I started taking myself on walks. I started talking to the plants and the trees around on the school campus and just finding connection to what, for me, would feel home. And I found it in nature. And as time moved on, eventually I left the school with grade 12, but I left with like, cum laude, watch. Yeah, I was like, I'll show you, mobiles. Anyway. And throughout my career, I always kept, it is good, the story, it is good. And when I immigrated to Canada, it was very challenging, as some immigrants would know, if you are sitting in the audience. It's challenging, it's hard, because here you are in a foreign country, you can't speak the language, or you can speak the language, some people, but how do you find your feet? Who are you in this new place, in this new land? Where do I fit? What is my role? Who am I in this new space? How do I find my feet again? How do I connect my roots? Sanctuary. So when I first came here, I remember knocking on many doors in the theatre world and my career, and a lot of doors were shut on me. And again, for the same things, the color of my skin or my accent. And just, being like, sorry, you're just not the right fit right now. I just don't really understand what you're saying. Anyway, so Jacqui. So I was like, okay. And I remember the last door being shut on me, and I was a new mom here, and I was like, okay, this I can either take as rejection, which a lot of us experience on many levels, but especially as creators. I can take this as rejection, or I can take this as redirection. And that's what I chose to do. And so I began to create my own events. I started bringing people in like Lucilla, and she knows me from way back in ago. Umi Cafe Jazz, we go way back. And she knows the story. And, you know, it's creating that sanctuary for others who are also struggling to find their feet, to find their strength, their sanctuary as a creator in a new space. And again, I'm going to keep referring to that story of it is good. How do I find the good in what situation I'm in? There has to be it is good somewhere. And I'm going to look for it. And so I started creating events. And then I created my first one-woman show, which toured Canada, won a few awards, and was nominated for quite a few awards as well. And was also performed in this theater at this space also. So it's like a nice full circle, you know. I like how things come together like that. It is good. So and in that redirection, that's when I began to find my sanctuary again. I started taking myself on walks, reminding myself of the nature, taking myself back to those moments where I felt so lost and so alone in South Africa and through that time period. And I remembered, look up at the sky, Jacqui. Look at the stars. Look at the moon. Look at the sun. Feel the earth. Connect with the water. Find your sanctuary. Through that, you allow yourself as a creator to take your ego and put it on a seat and say, Jacqui, thank you so much. You served me for now, but now I need to learn to be a vessel for the creation to flow through me. If we don't create that vessel, you as creators know, you struggle, no? You overthink everything, and trust me, I know, I'm also saying because I do it still. You're overthinking everything, like, yo, what am I going to say? Are they going to like me? Are they going to like this? But you know those sweet moments when your ego is aside and you're in the flow, right? When you're in the flow with creation, and that's when you find your sanctuary. I also struggled through, you know, relationships and things like that. And when my events started shutting down and there was no more venues, I teamed up with Jamal. Do you know Jamal Jackson? Roger? Yes. And Jamal and his brother Captain and I came together as creators. And there was an old garage where Happy Goat started. And that's when I would start bagging beans. I would take beans, guys, and I would sit and look at that stage. And I'd be like, one day I'm gonna tell a story. And there would be one person sitting in the audience, I kid you not, on a Saturday at the Laurel Happy Goat. I'm busy bagging beans. I'm looking at one person. I'm like, I'm gonna tell you a story. But in my mind, there was thousands of people. And I was like, yo. Imagination. We're going to come back to that. And here we are. and in that, we went back to the original Happy Goat venue. And we sat in that garage. And I said, guys, I had a vision, I had a dream, that we need to create a space for other creators who come from other places to just feel at home, where they can just be themselves. We live in a city that is dominated mostly by lots of rules and lines, and there's a kind of like vibe. But where do we find ourselves as creators? How do we express ourselves freely, joyfully, without holding back? And so we created the Origin Arts and Community Center, which is still in Mechanicsville. And with that, we made a sanctuary, a space for others to come in and to be themselves. So coming back to imagination and sanctuary as creators. One thing I realized with creation is that yes, we're going to stumble. Yes, there'll be times where we feel our thumb has been cut off and we can't find the good. Yes, there's going to be times when we can't trust or we don't know how to trust anymore. But there's that thin thread that Lucilla was talking about. It starts with breath. You can control your breath. You can control your imagination. And creating a sanctuary is not just on the outside, but what's here in your mind. How do you make space for what's in your mind? How do you create that space? And that mental way of thinking of it is good. You find that. You look for it with all your might. And I promise you, my friends, you will realize and find that
it is good.
Is that good? Thank you all so much for being here this morning. I'm so grateful for you all. Nkosi. Thank you. Don't make me cry! So unexpected. You're so Olak on a Friday morning. Thank you. Okay. Waiting for that question. Thank you. Yes, actually, backstage, I was actually texting my family back in South Africa being like, look guys, I'm wearing all of you. I'm bringing all of you with me on stage. And my mommy and my sister, they all reply like, yay. I'm going to show you something. So I placed this on the stage for me, first before I go into my costume. No? This means a lot to me because this is representation of my ancestors. They follow me and they're with me wherever I go. I give thanks to them because they are in the spirit of the story. So whatever you're feeling, just know that you are encompassed with so much love all the way from South Africa. This is traditional sage from the mountains, from Table Mountain, which I climbed to get this sage. I kid you not. There's pictures, okay. and this was, and I tied this together so that they stay with me on stage and they are represented. So I just want to acknowledge and give thanks for that first. And the wing was given to me by an elder here in Ottawa that I've been working with as well. So I bring the two worlds together when I'm on stage. With my costume, you're right, everything has a meaning. These are prayer beads that I have here. This is a bracelet that my one sister gave me, and this is another bracelet that my other sister gave me. This is a traditional Zulu queen hat that was passed over to me, and this is an Ndebele necklace that I wear as well, also representing. This necklace is obviously representing the continent, and red and black for me is the connection that I have with my roots back home. I'm barefoot, and I always wear sound wherever I go, so that you can hear, so you remember. She makes music wherever she goes. Oh yeah, and the dots. A lot of people ask about the dots. So the dots are Khoisan and koi koi celebration, so it's usually mixed with like, sometimes you have the white stones that you can find, which they would sometimes grind. This is paint, and they mix it with a little bit of water, and you put the dots on, and it's usually for celebrations. So whenever I come to stage or I do a performance, it's to celebrate life, né? And to celebrate all of us. So thank you for asking. Yes?
I think that you perform in schools a lot. And what kind of messages are you giving out when you talk to kids?
Oh, thank you for that. Yes, I do perform in schools a lot, and I give children these different stories that I share with them. One about courage, being true to yourself, listening to your heartbeat is one story I share with them, and it's got to do with dance, right? Because that's so vulnerable, right? Like dancing in front of people, I find here, there, and so I tell them stories about courage, listening to your own heartbeat, being true to yourself. I tell them stories about connection. There's a beautiful rainbow story that I like to share with them as well. And just like how we can learn as generations, because they must now the new generations, right? So just to remind guys, and it's mostly for the adults also. Remember, because we also got that inner child. No, we mustn't forget, we're also children inside still. And to remember, yes, we have differences. Yes, we have similarities. But it doesn't mean I must hate you because of that. Because together we can make a lekker, beautiful rainbow when we learn to accept each other's differences and our similarities. So that's what I do in schools. Thank you.
Thank you for your amazing performance. I'm curious about the sanctuary that you created of Origin. Can you tell us a little bit about the community center?
Yes, thank you, thank you. So it really came from me walking the path, and an elder sat with me the one day and was like, you need to create as you walk the path, you're paving the way. So I remember feeling so lost and alone in Ottawa. There was no creation, there was nothing for me to grasp. And so when we came together and we created the Arts and Community Center, it was for people to feel at home, no matter where you come from, no matter what walk of life, no matter what life is thrown at you. When you walk through that door, you must just feel, lekker. I can just be myself. So there's like a mini stage we have there. There's a little kitchen. It's a small intimate space for performances, or if you want to just have a small gathering or anything like that. We've had play readings, we've had international rock bands, we've had meditation, we have singing bowls, anything and everything you can think of, we've had in that space. And our goal is also for the youth, so to bring the youth in. And even last night there was like a beautiful poetry event that happened for black girls at the Ottawa U, yeah? And they had an event there. It was so lovely to attend. So it's really beautiful just to come in and just see everybody just enjoying the space. So that's what it's for. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for an amazing performance. I really enjoyed the way that you interact with the audience. Is that something that you bring from, South Africa and the way that storytelling is, or is that something that you added into your own type of performance?
That's a good question. I get that a lot. South Africans, especially coloureds, are the best storytellers. You can ask Trevor Noah, he'll even tell you. We're so animated, I promise you, when you go to South Africa. But I think with storytelling, it really started for me sitting at the kitchen table on a Friday eating fish and chips by my granny's house, and all the aunties and uncles and cousins coming over and listening. So for me, it was really the art of listening and allowing. And then I noticed the more real you are, the more authentic and honest and true you are, the better the story, right? So when I'm sharing stories with an audience that I don't really know of, I honestly think of all of you like you, my aunties and uncles and cousins and what. So for me, there's that, I create with my imagination a connection, and therefore like bringing you with me into the story. Thank you. Yes?
I'm curious about just more of your storytelling process in general. Like, a lot of the stories have been told for years and years and passed down. I'm assuming you kind of put your own spin on them sometimes. Do you also create stories of your own?
Yes, I do, yes. So some have been passed down, and then obviously I put a flair to it. I do have a university degree in performance, okay? Gotta use it for something. Just up it a little bit. But I do tell stories, and it is in those sanctuary moments, like when I take myself for walks, or I create rituals for myself. So again, for me, like I'm connected, I really feel connected to the moon. And so full moon or something, then I'll make like a hot bath with salt, and I allow myself to relax. The more I relax, and in that I get lost in my imagination, and then the stories start coming down to me. And then when the stories come to me, and I'm like, okay, whoa, I can see it, and I get lost in my imagination until the story becomes so crystal clear. And then I tell the story again in my mind. I see it again, and I play it in my mind again and again. And then when I see it crystal clear, and I can see the beginning, middle, and ending, and the characters and the colors, and I can smell anything, then I record it. And then I start writing it. And then I start playing with telling the story. So that's the process.
Yeah, going forward from here, how do you think we can all better bring these principles and elements of storytelling into our own day-to-day lives?
Oh my gosh, story, how do we bring it into everyday life? We all telling stories all the time, right? With social media, whatever. But my question is, how true are you to you? So what stories are you telling you? Because we are bombarded by stories all over. You got the newspaper, you got this. But let me tell you, you as creators, you are the co-creator of your reality. So what story are you telling you? If you're writing it down, if you're telling it in your head, and I know like people say affirmations and all that kind of stuff, it does work. But there's times when it doesn't, right? And you feel lost. Guys, go back and ask yourself, what story am I telling myself? Just because I'm in this situation right now doesn't mean you're going to stay there forever. How are you talking to yourself? What story are you creating for you? And see the magic of how it turns out to be. So the magic of storytelling is inside all of us. It just needs to be activated again and again, like the eyes of a child. Find that innocence, because we all have it. You didn't let it go, huh? It's still with us. Find it and then connect and see what story are you telling you. Catch yourself.
Thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you.